Welcome to the Real Estate 401k Show. Here are your hosts, Ryan Gertis, Mike Weinstein, and Justin Frederick, helping you build a legacy of wealth through real estate. Powered by the Recon Group at West USA and the Frederick team with Fairway Mortgage. NMLS number 625918.
You know, a lot of people who listen to this podcast, and we do. We appreciate everybody that listens to it. And I bet you wonder why. And I'm going to open us up to all kinds of just people making fun of us. But, you know, do you ever wonder what we do? What is our day job? What do we get paid for? And we spend so much time talking about our roles, you know, for Ryan and I as real estate wealth managers, and Justin is our lender. And maybe sometimes we don't clarify, but really at the end of the day, we are licensed real estate agents in the state of Arizona. And people I know, I watched this show with my son, A Modern Family. Have you guys ever seen this show, Modern Family?
I've heard a couple of episodes.
Phil Dunphy. He is the Southern California realtor, and it just does such a phenomenal job of mocking our profession and really just making fun of the pettiness that is in our industry. But I think a lot of people really wonder, okay, they see, you know, how much agents make and you know, at the closing table, and people go, boy, what do agents really do? What is the value of a real estate agent? And I often consider that question myself when I think about what we do. And I always frame it like this. Ryan, what we get paid for, it doesn't matter if you have a Arizona real estate license. Anyone can, with an Arizona real estate license, can put their name on the contract, create the contract, send it out for signatures, and so forth. But what you're really getting with somebody who's experienced, like our team of real estate wealth managers, everything, Ryan, is about the negotiations. It's not about how much the house is listed for. It's not about putting numbers and checking boxes on a stupid piece of paper that we call our purchase contract. It's the negotiations. And I have to say, I don't like to compliment you too often, but the shit that I've learned from you about negotiating is just freaking through the roof. Like when I'm just worn out by someone, I'm like, you know what, I really got to get this thing handled. I'm like, go get him, Tiger, because you're gonna freaking go to town. And then I oftentimes go, boy, I feel sorry for that other agent. You do not know what's about to hit you.
Well, the beauty is we do have a good cop, bad cop type of relationship going on. So when we are negotiating as a team, it can be pretty potent. So like right now, the most common negotiation tactic right now is what I call the golden handcuff strategy. And that is what you're seeing from these big hedge funds and previously Zillow and Open Door and OfferPad and all those guys. And I'm not mad at them because they have one approach and one approach only, and that is the golden handcuffs. And what they're going to do is they're all about showing you a big number on the first page.
Yep.
Okay. And it's powerful. A lot of people put a lot of equity into that first page.
It's like when you get engaged. Your wife, your fiance, it's like all these promises. This is what marriage is going to be like, man. And then I feel the golden handcuffs. I hope my wife's not listening, but I'm handcuffed here.
And then they don't like to use the word commission, which I understand that too, because a lot of people out there, when they're selling a home or they're buying a home, their question is, well, how much money are you making, John Q. real estate agent? And they always want a piece of it, or they want to pay less. So what do? They say, oh, well, this is a convenience fee, or this is an administration or a supporting fee or something like that.
One of them at one point started calling it an experience fee. Like you get to pay to have this experience. Like if I should charge people just for the experience of working with me, man, go get a beer and a burger with me. You should be paying a lot for that.
and I'm just too darn black and white. I mean, hey, it's a commission. Like the money is going to go from this person's pocket over to my pocket in order to facilitate the transaction or provide representation or whatever my job or whatever my role is in that transaction. At the end of the day, it's commission-based because I'm not charging hourly, and I only get paid whenever the transaction closes. Now, I'm happy to change that up, but at the end of the day, it's going to come all come out in the wash. Is how it's going to go down. So the golden handcuff method, they're going to throw a big number at you. Maybe your home on a good day is worth $500,000. They're going to throw that $500,000 and they're going to put it in front of you, and you're going to be like, wow, I want to do business with this buyer, right? If I'm a home seller and I'm going to get $500,000, where on a good day it's maybe worth that, I'm definitely going to be attracted to that. Then we start getting down to the experience fees and the other fees. But at this point in time, mentally, I've already cashed that check. I've already planned my trip to Tahiti. I've already planned on buying that new vehicle. I've already spent a lot of that money, right? So golden handcuffs, right? And then we go to our inspection process. And they say, well, you disclosed that maybe the AC was a little bit old, and so I'm not really going to ding you on that. But you didn't mention anything about the appliances. You didn't mention the fact that the cabinetry is 30 years old and beat up, and that the flooring is warped and buckling, and the tiles and everything else is coming apart at the seams. And so now that $500,000 is going to be more like a $470,000 plus those 10 to 12%, even I've seen as high as 15% in these experience fees or other fees. Well, now all of a sudden that $500,000, once you get to the back page of what your net isn't nearly as sexy.
It's not even the back page. It's after the inspections. You got the back page.
The inspections.
And then you go through the inspections, and then you get the next page.
So, but you get where I'm going with this.
Right.
At the very end of the day, when you're signing off on your closing documents,
It's $385,000.
right? Yeah, then the number has a 3 in front of it.
Yeah,
not
it
a 5 anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the beauty behind the science of that negotiation model, because now I've just buzzed off all these other potential buyers because I've mentally gone over there and cashed that $500,000 check.
Well, plus they make them sign contracts, so they think they're locked into. They've lost their house, and it's hard for me to believe that so many people go through with that process. It almost makes me feel like they think that you would do the same thing to them, as an agent. But
that's a good point.
It's just hard for me to believe. When I see these things, I can't believe people go through with these.
It's because they love that first page. They love that
how?
500.
I don't care what the first page says. I want to know what the last page says.
But so we're in a relationship-based business, right? So this is why it works.
I'm not walking away from $100,000 because.
But you don't know that at first. You don't know until you're locked in.
I understand, and then, but still, if somebody's negotiating with you when you get through the inspection and you're like, I'm not giving up $50,000. There's not $50,000 worth of issues in my house. I'm starting all over again. I don't care if I bought a car already in my mind.
Yep, and then or they've already gone under contract with another home. That's the biggest. That's
thing.
the biggest, because with the $385, I can still accomplish the closing of door number 2 over here. But I've just taken $100,000+ bath than what my initial expectation was.
It's just so crazy that these things have survived and are thriving.
Well, the idea here is to educate you.
Yeah, well,
right. And so if
Justin's made it very clear on his personal feelings.
So it hurts my heart.
Yeah, and I think that it just hasn't taken its full toll on the market yet, and so these companies are going to continue to use that strategy because they've started to wire the public to, hey, get an offer right now, and then it's going to be this big sexy number, and then all right, well, let's have a conversation about that number, and while they've already clicked dismiss on the other 15 phone calls that they've gotten from legitimate buyers that are wanting to go over there and transact, that are going to make it more beneficial for those sellers out there.
Well, I would just say, because I can't help but think that we have some listeners right now that might be selling their home and they're under contract with one of these iBuyers or one of these programs. If you haven't fully executed the deal and escrow hasn't closed, get a second opinion. Let somebody else put eyes on it and show you what your situation is and what it could look like. And if you give us that opportunity by texting the word wealth to AZ or 623AZ Recon, if what you're sitting on is a great deal, we're going to tell you. Chances are it's not. but we're going to tell you. Now, I'm going to date myself here a little bit. I'm a little bit older than you guys. But when I was a kid and we went to Disneyland, which the happiest place on earth is a lie. It's not the happiest place on earth, especially when you're paying for it. You got a family of 4. There's nothing about that's happy.
But when you were a kid and you weren't paying for it.
But they had these ride tickets. And, depending on you would buy a packet of ride tickets. And so depending on the ride that you would want to go on, you would have to see if you had that ride ticket. And it was all colorful. And then one had Mickey Mouse and one had Minnie Mouse and all of the Disney characters. And we used to call that Disneyland money. It looks cool. And it's, but it's not. And it's not real. And it doesn't really, you can't go out and actually spend it. My concern with what happens to a lot of sellers is when they're just taking a look at the paper and they're taking a look at that offer. Okay, yeah, I'm going to walk away from X amount of dollars. For whatever reason, for some of us, equity has just become funny money. It's just become that Disneyland money that it's not like, we joke, we talked about doing this when we first started 4 years ago, Ryan, and we never followed through with it. But we wanted to actually, Justin, get checks made, like real looking checks. And what we would do is we'd sit down with the seller and say, okay, if you go through option A, this is what you're looking at netting, and actually write out a check. Yeah. If you go with the iBuyer, this is what you're looking at netting. But if you go with us, this is what you could expect. So they could see something real and something that's tangible and something that makes sense to them.
So I think the reason why I remember why we decided against it.
Because it costs money and you don't like to spend any money.
Well, I don't like to spend any money. And I also remember I had a vacuum salesman come to my house one time.
For the rainbow?
For the rainbow. and I did not invite him in. That was
my wife bought that vacuum.
I'm not gonna throw anyone under the bus. But the person I was living with, who I still live with, had invited this gentleman in. And he went through his whole spiel. And so of course I'm just like, all right, I see the value. Yeah, it is a superior vacuum to my, whatever. I got this Eureka that I have over there that's 15 years old. And, so yes, it is a better vacuum. I get it. How much? Because I have a number in my head of what the value is, and it's not 50 of those Eurekas, right? Which is what they wanted. So what they would do is they would write down that number, and then they would hide it. And then they would slowly start revealing numbers to me.
Right.
And I was like, well, if that pissed me off, and that's not how I consume, there's no way I would ever want to come off as a door-to-door knockoff vacuum salesman while I'm over there trying to manage and represent them on a several hundred million or several $100,000 or $1 million plus asset of theirs. So that's why we did away with that.
So Justin, pretty much Ryan says my idea sucks.
No, I think I think it's a great idea, but I think that you're absolutely right that somehow equity has become funny money. But and this is what drives me crazy. It is what drives me crazy is because they're willing to walk away from 20 to 50 grand sometimes, maybe even more than that in cases. Because it's easy. They're already dialed in with them. They don't want to back out with the iBuyer things. But then on the loan side of things, well, you could buy down your rate for 0.5% or 0.5 a point to the loan cost, right? Let's say it's a $300,000 loan, so it costs you $1,500 to buy down the rate. It'll save you $30 a month to buy down the rate because you're prepaying interest with a buy down, and that same person has a big issue with that when somebody just stole 50 grand from you.
He's fired up, man.
And I'm giving you something for your money. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I know it's in life. It's as human beings that sometimes when things are convenient and it's easy, you're already halfway done with it. It's easy to go through. That's why I say funny money.
Ryan, what if I did this instead?
Yeah.
What if it was a picture book? Okay, you're walking away from $10,000. So there's a picture of a family of 4 on a cruise. Okay.
See Dick take 50 grand from Jane
Don't be
run
a dick,
down the hill. Yeah. Don't be a dick.
We better finish up that joke because they're not going to understand. Anyways, So you walk away from 20,000. So we got a picture of something, right? And then you get up to the point, let's say in Justin's scenario, you're actually walking away from potentially $50,000, and that picture is a second home. Because what could you do in real estate with an extra $50,000?
So bringing this full circle and why all these things do work and why some things don't work, so on and so forth, is because it's focusing on pressure points. So going back to the golden handcuffs, we're talking about the pressure point of that big first number. Like that's a big pressure point for a lot of people. Or having that check written out and then tearing it up and throwing it away, or having that check go from $200,000 down to $150,000. These are pressure points. So when it comes to negotiation, our biggest obstacle up front is understanding exactly what the pressure points for you as a buyer or a seller versus what the pressure points are for whoever's on the other side of that table. And then once we can understand what all those pressure points are, then we can strategically and logistically put together a strategy that is going to help us get to the closing table to where everybody wins.
It's apparent that I've probably watched a little too much Price is Right as a kid. All my ideas are Bob Barker-ish type. I think that lastly, what I'd like to end, I think what I'd want our listeners to understand. I mean, if you are selling your home to an iBuyer, or a hedge fund, whatever you want to call them, you do not have representation, and it's equivalent of going to court without an attorney. And I know that in the real estate industry, people have all types of feelings about us as real estate agents, real estate professionals. We like to refer to ourselves as real estate wealth managers. But we have a duty. We have a legal obligation to make sure that our sellers get the most amount of money or have the most favorable terms, don't get screwed over, don't get ripped off, and so forth. And the amount of money that you're possibly leaving on the table, it's worth at least that consultation. And so if you are wanting to understand the selling process, you're wanting to understand this contract that is sitting before you from a hedge fund or an iBuyer, wanting to take a second pair of eyes on it, wanting to know what additional options are available to you. We haven't done it in a while. But we're going to go ahead and text the word options to 623-AZ-RECON. That's options to 623-AZ-RECON.
Thank you for joining us on the Real Estate 401k Show. If you want more information on how to build wealth, click on the link or text us at 623-297-3266. That's 623-AZ-RECON.